I would like to introduce my pastor, Jay Howard, and he has begged for this opportunity for us and to pray.
Let's pray. God, we thank you for the opportunity to be able to come before you, recognizing and acknowledging, God, that you are over all things. You're the creator of all things and the sustainer of all things. God, we know that your word is clear, Father, that you have established government, and you've established it for us, Father, that you appoint leaders and you take down leaders, Father, that all authority is given through you and only through you. And so, Father, we acknowledge that and give you the glory for that tonight. Father, I thank you for each one of these who represent the constituents that they do. For these men and women, we pray, God, that you would give them wisdom and discernment, Father, to make decisions based on the morals and the ethics of your word. God, that we know that all decisions are not going to be popular with everyone. We pray, God, that they would do it based on who you are and the character of you. And God, for the best interest of those who they represent. Father, we thank you for all you do for us, and most of all, we thank you for the salvation we have through Jesus Christ. And it's through him we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Please join me, stand as you are able, and join me in the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on our agenda this evening is special recognitions, and Mr. Bradley, I'm going to turn it back over to you this evening.
Thank you much. I would ask that those from Love, Loaves, and Fishes, would you please stand? And we'll have to take new pictures. I had food for my kids earlier. Currently, there are 45,000 people living in Greenville County who struggle to put food on the table. Most of these are single-parent families who have children under the age of 18, and 12% of this number are senior citizens. For 30 years, Loaves and Fishes have served to eliminate food insecurities in our community by locating and collecting edible surplus food and redistributing food through local emergency food programs. In 2022 alone, Loaves and Fishes, 350 volunteers have collected over 2.7 million pounds of food from 150 donors and have redistributed that food throughout the 102 partners and agencies, providing meals for over 250,000 people. The work they do and the commitment they have to make Greenville's community is tremendous. I would like to recognize Loaves and Fishes as tonight's highlighted nonprofit organization. Ms. Ray, will you introduce the folks you have?
We've got a great group of volunteers, board members, and staff members here tonight to represent. We thank you all so very much for recognizing us. We do serve all of Greenville County, and I hope that if you are interested in doing a food drive, or you know a restaurant owner who wants to donate food, or you're involved with a pantry that feeds people, please let us know. We would love to help you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for being with us this evening. The minutes from our October 3rd meeting that were distributed in your packet. Happy to entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion on the floor. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right. The ayes have it, and the minutes will stand approved. Now we come to a time for our appearances by citizens for current agenda items. Ms. McCaskill, will you call the first speaker, please?
Yes, the first speaker is Lady Ingersol. The topic is item 12.
Good evening. My name is Megan Ingersol, and I'm an active young leader in the community from District 18. I am here to speak against the proposed picketing ordinance. It would appear that the council has not done due diligence in crafting this ordinance even for a first draft. One simple review of the U.S. Supreme Court and South Carolina court rulings would show that the ordinance is out of bounds and therefore unconstitutional on several fronts. I am proudly pro-life and support anyone speaking out in support of innocent babies being killed. But this is America, where all picketers have the right to free speech and should simply be held to current South Carolina Code of Laws regarding harassment, violence, and disorderly conduct. While the new ordinance proposed tonight might sound idyllic, it contains First Amendment infringing language on multiple fronts. Adding rules to, quote, minimize the chance of someone breaking the law is redundant and out of bounds per current South Carolina rulings. I reference South Carolina 2331-520, an amendment to the open carry law that prohibits your removal of open carry rights in this specific instance. The ordinance goes against legal precedent in regards to speech as well. According to the Institute for Advocacy and Protection, the Supreme Court has stated categorically in 505 U.S. 123, and I quote, "Speech cannot be punished or banned simply because it might offend a hostile mob." Also, restricting bikes when the area is clearly near a road on a right-of-way is outside your jurisdiction, as it is public property and protected for the use of pop-up or small demonstrations without the need of a permit in this instance. I would also note that the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled against local councils that use such terms as decency, morality, and public welfare as a blanket hall pass, and many courts routinely will strike down this kind of language. And a clear bag policy tighter than our friends at the Greenville Drive is ridiculous and simply an infringement on a citizen simply walking up, such as a lady with a purse or a student with a backpack, and joining in an active demonstration. Let's instead enforce the laws that already exist to protect citizens. Enforcing current law on harassment and damage to property would do the job of minimizing these problems. Perhaps your intentions are good, but instead of taking county council time and resources to draw up this new First Amendment infringing ordinance, please just encourage enforcement of current law that would protect everyone on Grove Road. And for the record, the burden of funding law enforcement to protect the public is not our job, it is yours. Perhaps next time, instead of funding and expanding pet projects in our county budget, we can just designate those funds to law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is William Bfor. I'm from District 19, Benton Blount, council member. And I wrote him a letter the other day. This has to do with the Cherokee Landing Special Source Revenue Credit Agreement. Good evening, council members, and good evening, Greenville County. It appears that the candidates for mayor and council for the city of Greenville have been posing views on development here. Keep Greenville green or continue this urban sprawl, raising taxes, building on all green space land, lining the pockets of politicians, displacing lifelong residents, creating a homelessness situation, and effectively making this county a haven for pockets of crime-ridden areas. For the Cherokee Landing developers, I would request that you vote no on this developer proposal and further stop these developments at this time. I would imagine that the residents near the Berea post office that once had trees next to them and surely not thrilled about a huge retention pond to the left of their lawn. All the trees have been cleared. Well, we do need space and a place for people to live, don't we? Forget farmland and keeping trees. Food comes from supermarkets, and oxygen is just there. Furthermore, the unmitigated growth along the White Horse Corridor in District 19 is completely out of control. When I first moved here, concerned citizens, including my wife and I, in the neighborhood of down Motorboat Club Road, went to a council meeting. It had to do with an illegal RV park there. I know the council shut that down at the time. This place was put back on the market and subsequently dubbed a developer's dream, partially cleared and wooded area. Fortunately, because of overwhelming response, the council stopped the project, but for how long? They'll wait and then they'll hit again. Having over a decade in law enforcement, it is clear to me that code enforcement and law enforcement alike are turning the other way when looking at this area in Berea, among other communities here. In addition, the city of Greenville is pushing any obligation to provide affordable housing out so that people certainly working there at a minimum wage will not be able to afford to live there. Or is this not true? Residents who grew up here are being pushed out due to recent tax increases. There also appears that there has been little thought on school expansion, road improvements, or the utility uses, water, sewer, electrical, and sanitation. There seems to be an unprecedented number of, I see my time, pop-up used car dealers, car washes, cargo trailer lots, vape shops, food trucks, and generally a blatant disregard for enforcement of people using vacant lots, etc., to set up makeshift sales of clothing, baby strollers, kitchen utensils, and morning coffee and drinks from plastic tables, etc. I've just asked the council, do you know who's here? Do you know who's setting this stuff up? And I do appreciate what you're doing for the county. And I guess that's my time. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Annette Burgess. The topic is item 12C.
Good evening. I hope you can hear me okay. All right. My name is Annette Burgess, and I'm resident of Greenville County, and I oppose much of the ordinance, which is 12C on your agenda, under Ordinances First Reading, entitled Promote Peaceful Exercise of Conduct. I oppose much of this ordinance, but I support one part of it, and for the following reasons. One, I'm speaking on behalf of pro-life sidewalk counselors. I'm thoroughly familiar with the situation at the clinic on Grove Road, and that gives rise to this bill. For many years, we sidewalk counselors have been peacefully offering assistance, resources, and information to women in distress about to make a life-changing choice. This is not bad behavior. It is not uncivil. It's kind. And as the very bill here acknowledges, it is protected by the U.S. Constitution. For decades, pro-life people and pro-choice people have shared their differing messages from the same patches of the roadside in a mostly peaceful coexistence. But the strategy of the pro-choice side has changed. Encouraged by lawlessness that gets publicly tolerated across the country, and with no real message of their own, they act overtly only to obstruct ours, blocking us with their bodies, keeping us from giving information with their umbrellas, screaming at us, dogging our every step, blaring obscenities and obscene songs through bullhorns, and even spraying poop spray to make us smell like feces. This is not constitutionally protected behavior. It violates existing laws. These people need to be prosecuted, and several of them have. One of them alone has been prosecuted at least a half dozen times. I think you know her name, and yet she persists in her behavior and is there at the clinic. Restricting peaceful pro-life advocates with vague and overbroad provisions of this proposed ordinance, which is guaranteed to result in litigation against the county, will not solve the problem. You could pass this ordinance, pro-life people would comply with it, and the hooliganism of the other side would continue. There is, however, one provision in this bill, which is the interference with picketers, that if you strip everything from the bill and allow enforcement to focus on that, I want you to refer to a handout you received that says Thomas More Society, which shows all the reasons why this particular ordinance go against the First Amendment, and that you would probably get litigation as a result of passing it. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Carolyn Watson, thank you.
I'm Carolyn Watson, resident in Greenville County for more than 25 years. Honorable members of the Greenville County Council, thank you for this opportunity to address you. I strongly oppose the picketing ordinance, as does the previous speaker. I see First Amendment problems with this ordinance and other practical problems that suggest very poor understanding of what actually happens on the ground at the Greenville Women's Clinic. First, the definition of picketing is impossibly broad. Picketing is defined in this ordinance as demonstrating and otherwise engaging in expressive conduct protected by the First Amendment in a public area. According to this definition, when my husband parks our car on the street and my family takes the sidewalk to church, We are picketing because we are engaging in behavior expressive of religious belief in a public area. According to Section 3.A.3, picketers must walk single file, in this case from car to church, extremely problematic for those with young children. Likewise, those who come to county council meetings exercising their rights to freedom of assembly and speech are picketing and must walk single file from the parking deck or their parking space on the street. 2 or 3 abreast, they violate the ordinance. My second objection is that this ordinance will not achieve its goal, quote, to minimize the chance for personal injury and harm to public and private property. It does not address the real problems behind the very real ongoing harm and injury. Section 4.2 prohibits from the immediate area any object that could cause bodily injury, including baseball bats, sticks, brass knuckles, and slingshots. I've never seen anyone with a baseball bat, brass knuckles, or slingshot on site, but many of us have been subjected to bullhorns positioned inches from the ear and spewing out vile, abusive epithets at a decibel level that threatens to damage hearing. Why are not bullhorns, heavy and obviously dangerous, not enumerated? Often, one of the pro-abortion operatives has interposed an open umbrella between a pro-life advocate and a car that the advocate is lawfully allowed to approach, blanking out the advocate's field of vision and impeding movement with the potential to cause grave bodily harm to the advocate, both by the automobile and by the umbrella. Why are real threats such as bullhorns and umbrellas ignored, while irrelevancies are enumerated? This same section, 4.2, mentions sticks as forbidden potential weapons. Are then the elderly and disabled who need walking sticks and canes not allowed to use them at the clinic, or here for that matter, and thus in effect banned from these sites? What is that but gross discrimination? For these and many other reasons, I hope you will reject this poorly drafted ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Carrie Ford from Southeast Riding Tennessee.
My name is Carrie Gifford. I have much more to say and more resources to share than I can convey in 3 minutes, so I have provided more content on paper. Because of God's leading, I have been standing outside the abortion facility in Greenville as an advocate for moms, dads, and babies to pray and offer hope and help for 8.5 years. For the last 4 years, our compassionate, peaceful, law-abiding ministry has been severely attacked and hindered by Antifa-style tactics of pro-abortion protesters. In the beginning, they came out to create havoc several days a week. Their presence has steadily increased since then, and now in approximately the last 2 years, 1 to 3 or more pro-abortion protesters have been present year-round every morning that the abortion facility is opened and doing abortions, which is 6 mornings a week. The pro-abortion protesters want very much to get rid of us, and they greatly hinder our First Amendment rights to offer gifts, printed resources, and verbal information to women, some of whom are in desperate need. In 2021, our sidewalk counselors reported 54 women we reached out to who chose to keep their babies. In 2022, due to increased restraints and interference in sharing information put on us by the pro-abortion protesters, we only know of 20 women who chose to keep their babies. Additionally, we have lost many of our sidewalk counselors and prayer warriors who are not willing or do not feel called to endure the adverse, unsafe, blasphemous, and civil rights violating environment the pro-abortion protesters have created. It seems abundantly obvious to us on the pro-life side that the pro-aborts, as we call them, consistently have broken many laws while we have shown much love and restraint in response. The response from the Greenville County Sheriff's Office and the courts has been disappointing and inadequate in our view. As we have experienced and see it, the SC and U.S. constitutions and laws have not been upheld for 4 years, so we have no confidence that any ordinance will be either. We believe South Carolina and U.S. laws that already exist should be upheld by the Sheriff's Office and the courts. Here are just 3 points from my longer list of my concerns about the ordinance. Section 3A4, does the immediate area include the abortion facility side of the fence, or can the pro-aborts have stuff there and blast noise and spray stink spray from there? Section 3A5, will this decrease or increase calls to Greenville County Sheriff's Office? How do you avoid this infringing on First Amendment rights of both sides? Section 3B, how will this be enforced? Will Greenville County Sheriff's Office cameras be installed? How many and where? Does this apply to the vile, loud music? I sincerely hope this can be resolved so we can move, act, and speak peacefully, respectfully, and freely without hindering each other in an environment of law and order. Thank you.
Next speaker is Valerie Bonin. Her topic is item 12C.
Hello, my name is Valerie Bonin, and I live in Malden 2 Precinct. I've lived in Greenville County since 1971. I am a retired director of IT applications for Ffor Corporation. I have a heart for women facing unplanned pregnancies, and I have prayed outside the abortion clinic since 1991. If a woman is looking for help and happens to stop, I offer her resources. I have personally helped countless women that decided to keep their babies with cribs, clothing, diapers, food, a place to live, and countless other ways. I often get texts from women I have helped sharing pictures of their beautiful children. I respectfully ask you to vote no on this ordinance. This ordinance will take away our First Amendment rights to be able to freely talk to women confused and hurting and just wanting someone to offer the help they need. Those that want abortions can freely drive by us with no problem. I am there for those that are undecided and want to stop and talk and assure them that there is help out there in whatever they need. Since 2017, we have been harassed by pro-abortion protesters, bullhorns, playing loud, disgusting music, poop spray, mocking, and blocking us from talking to the women. Despite their attempts, we're still making some headway and hearing from some women that decide not to abort, but to raise their child and need help. I really like Sheriff Lewis. Just want to say, I respect what he's trying to do to help the situation, but I'm not in favor of losing my First Amendment rights to help these women. Please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, next speaker is Jill Hill. Her topic is item 11D.
Hi, I'm Jill Hood, and I live in District 20. And I know most of you heard me the other night, but I wanted to make sure every one of you hear me, because this is so important. We the people are the ones that pay each one of your salaries. And sometimes you need to listen to us, because this is very important. I'm asking you to vote no on this Cherokee Landing Developers, TWG Incorporated, from Indianapolis, Indiana, to get a 50% tax break for 20 years. That's ridiculous. No, nobody should be getting something like this. Now, let's don't put a spin on it and say, oh, no, it's not coming from your tax money. Excuse me, but it's coming from our money. Whether it's county, state, federal, it's coming from our tax money. And you need to pay attention to that. And it doesn't matter, a lot of people that are coming into this state, we should be getting extra tax money from all the people that are moving here. And we need to remember that all these apartment type houses, they're affecting our whole county, because that puts more pressure on the police, the fire departments, the EMS, school teachers, doctors. It's hard to get an appointment with a doctor now. You have to wait so long to get an appointment. And that tells us something right there. We need to be careful having so many people coming into these apartment type houses. What happened to houses being built with a backyard for kids to play in? Because now there's not anything like that. It's everything you see being built now is apartment type houses, over and over and over again, cutting down all the trees. And I'm thinking, goodness gracious, we all talk about, how we learned that in school about our oxygen comes from the trees and things like that. Why are we cutting everything down that's so beautiful just to put more and more apartment houses? This is ridiculous. We need to think about it. We need to be concerned about our children and our grandchildren and people to come. And thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you.
Watson. His topic is item 12C.
Thank you. While Mr. Watson is coming up, how much more time do we have left in this section?
We have 11 minutes.
Thank you.
Good evening, councilmen and women. Boy, that's a hard act to follow. I wanted to talk briefly about, well, some of the things that haven't been covered. I think we've simply put it, basically the proposed ordinance is really a prohibition on our citizens' rights to exercise of religion. It abridges their rights of freedom of speech of our citizens and their rights to peacefully assemble. The chance, as you mentioned in your finding about talking about injury and harm, the chance for injury and harm to persons and or property, in my opinion, is trumped, no pun intended, but is trumped by our rights under the First Amendment. You can't deny us our rights under the First Amendment concerned about a perceived or possible outcome. Furthermore, the chance of risk and harm of injuring is more the result of non or arbitrary enforcement of existing criminal laws and statutes, not by the citizens trying to exercise their First Amendment rights. Section dealing with Section 3, regulation of picketers. The conduct of picketers. The First Amendment rights shall be allowed provided that. I don't recall seeing anything that says provided that in the Constitution, that you can abridge my rights, provided that. Okay. That in itself is unconstitutional. Picketing may only be conducted on sidewalks, etc. Now you're telling me where I can exercise my First Amendment rights. Okay. Picketing. How about, and they're talking about blocks or impedes. That's so broad it's ridiculous. If I drop a limb off a tree, that could be constituted in part of impeding traffic. Okay. How about totally blocks or totally impedes access? And then if you get into the arbitrary parts, like the size of the bags, how did they come up with that? Why not 6'9" by 4 or 10 by 10 by 10? Okay. Where did that number come from? And the other one on weapons, that's too broad and arbitrary. A weapon can be anything from a hat pin to a hand grenade, okay? You might better phrase that in terms of objects that are designed for and normally used for creating serious bodily harm or something that could stand scrutiny. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's keep the business.
The next speaker is Frederick Huffman. His topic is item 11B.
Thank you all for the pleasure of addressing the Honorable Greenville County Council. My name is Rick Huffman, a Greenville native and local business owner. I'm speaking on behalf of Friends of the Reedy River and the South Carolina Native Plant Society. But more importantly, I'm here to speak for water quality. Speaking for water quality, I'm here to seek your support for agenda item 11B that will strengthen the riparian buffer requirements countywide. We do not want to see the proposed riparian buffer amendment fail because it is tethered to a proposed minimum lot size for septic tanks in unzoned areas. It seems odd this pairing of two somewhat different applications versus protection for water quality. Maybe the pairing is so moved to kill any initiative, but 50 feet is better than the current protections. It is an incremental step in the right direction, and will help Greenville County meet its MS4 requirements for water quality in the most cost-effective manner. Please keep the 50-foot buffer as part of the ordinance, but also hold this amendment in context with the pending UDO, which currently has a 100-foot requirement. I currently serve on the Reedy River Water Quality Group with over 25 stakeholder groups. Since 2015, we have convened and worked together to find solutions to protect, preserve, and ensure water quality for future generations. Our coalition, through study, debates, embraced the value of riparian buffer provided for water quality. In response to the concerns raised by the Home Builder Association and the Chamber, the Reedy River Water Quality Group funded an economic impact study. The Economic Committee, chaired by the members of the Home Builder Association and the Chamber, determined through taxpayer-funded study that a 100-foot riparian buffer offered the most cost-effective means for water quality. I believe the value was 8-to-1. Every roadblock or delay has been placed, misinformation, influence to derail any riparian progress be damned. It is a fact that other counties such as Lexington, York, Shaw, and the city of Bluffton have already learned and embraced these facts. All these counties and cities have strong ordinances in Greenville. The fact is clean water matters. The fact is riparian buffers work, yet here we are begging for 2 or 3 first downs distance on a football field for water quality and tied to a pass or fail amendment. I come to you as someone who has championed riparian buffers and benefits for 30 years. I was co-author of Life at the Water's Edge, 2004 publication with Clemson University, which received the 2006 National Resource Publication of the Year. As founder of the Native Plant Society, riparian education and advocacy with native plants has been a message we have championed.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Chairman, the next speaker is John Asher. His topic is item 11C.
My name is John Asher. I'm actually missionary to the abortion clinic on Grove Road, and we're peaceful, prayerful, and non-confrontational. And my point of view concerning these laws that you would like to, that are proposed, is that you don't need them. You don't need these new laws. You need to enforce the harassment laws that are already on the books. By not enforcing the harassment laws, you've created an adversarial, confrontational environment out there. I know the Sheriff's Department has complained that they've been sent out there more than 300 times this year. Well, if they only enforce these laws that are already on the books and sharpen those up, they wouldn't have to go out there at all if we just enforced those laws. I mean, you would think, common sense would say to you that harassing would consist of putting a bullhorn up to somebody's ear, to physically body blocking them from moving, using umbrellas to prevent people's mobility. I would say that that's harassment. Besides that, obscene music. It's not obscene, it's XXX rated music that's being played out there. You guys should come out there and observe for yourselves and see what it's like to be out there. The rules of common decency don't exist. They don't exist out there. And we're looked on as protesters. We're not protesters. We're there to provide resources and alternatives to the women going in. And I would say in years past, before the pro-aborts were out there, 91 women decided for life. There's 91 babies that were saved from being aborted. So I would appeal to you to look at the laws that are already on the books before you go passing new ones that are against our First Amendment rights. So I thank you for the opportunity, and I thank you that you're even looking into this by thinking about other laws that would resolve some of the problems out there. That's, be to commended for that. But we do need help out there. We do need your help to provide a better, safer place for people to meet out there and to present their views peacefully. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe we have time for one more speaker, is that correct?
That is correct. That speaker is Scott. His topic is item 11D.
Thank you. I'm glad I get in under the wire here. Anyway, I'd like to speak about 11D. And I'll say, hello, I'm David Kopp, a resident of District 19, and thank you for allowing me to speak in opposition of giving a significant tax break to developers regarding the charity landing. The tax revenue belongs to the citizens of Greenville County. From my neighborhood, it is already difficult to get out onto White Horse Road, even before all this new development. Combined with all the other massive growth happening in the White Horse Road area, these 128 units will create even more strain on our roads and infrastructure, making them increasingly unsafe. Furthermore, rental properties under affordable housing do not give the incentive for people to raise their standard of living, because in order to retain their subsidized housing, they must stay below certain income levels. I think affordable housing, if applied, should be available for home ownership, where it would have a greater long-term positive impact on the individual families and the community at large. Also, I'm a retired USPS letter carrier. I would like to know, who is this workforce housing for? Will people who do not have legal status in this country be able to access this affordable housing that we are subsidizing with our tax dollars? In conclusion, I am deeply concerned about the location of this workforce housing. If workforce housing should exist, it should be located within walking distance of major employers and basic community resources. Where are the workplaces and what that are conveniently located in Cherokee Landing? The bus stop is 18-minute walk away. The nearest grocery store is also an 18-minute walk. Realistically, this housing would be located in an area where residents will need a car in order to get to work or purchase groceries. By definition, those who are in need of affordable housing may not have reliable access to a car and would be better served by a housing that is located within walking distance of the resources they need to access. Thank you for your time to allow me to voice my concern, and I ask you to keep your promises to the constituents who elected you. And with regard to the pro-life, in 2022, there was, from what source given to me, there were 3,679 lives that were lost, babies. So I think we need to go ahead and enforce the laws in the book, like we said before, and put more restrictions on what we can do to try to save lives. Thank you.
We have like 30 seconds left if the next speaker can, we don't know, you don't, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for coming out tonight. I know it's hard to get everything you need to say into 3 minutes, but we really appreciate you all being here and voicing your concerns, and for your continued emails and calls. Just thank you for being engaged in the process. The next item on our agenda is public hearings, and for that I'm going to call on the Vice Chairman of the Public Works Committee, Alan Mitchell, to conduct those public hearings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have public hearings tonight. First will be for the Greater Greenville Sanitation District Annexation, 103 Couple Creek Drive, and 49 Cambridge Drive. This public hearing is being held for the purpose of receiving comments from the public regarding a resolution to enlarge the boundaries of the Greater Greenville Sanitation District to include 103 Couple Creek Drive and 49 Cambridge Drive. Do we have any speakers?
Seeing Ms. Mitchell, we have no speakers on this public hearing.
Before I will conclude this public hearing, we call it closed. The next public hearing is the Greater Greenville Sanitation District Annexation, Idlewild, Michelin Place, Carolina Hills, and enforcement of Blue Sky Park subdivisions. This public hearing is being held for the purpose of receiving comments from the public regarding a resolution to enlarge the boundaries of the Greater Greenville Sanitation District to include the Powwow, Michelin Place, and Carolina Hills subdivisions and a portion of Blue Sky Park subdivisions. Do we have any speakers for this public hearing?
Ms. Seaman, Mr. Mitchell, we do not have any speakers for this public hearing.
Thank you. Therefore, I will call this public hearing to a close. The next public hearing is for Paris Mountain Wildlife Mitigation Plan. This public hearing is being held for the purpose of receiving comments from the public regarding a resolution to amend the Greenville County multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan to incorporate the Paris Mountain Wildlife Mitigation Plan as an annex to the plan. Do we have any speakers for this public hearing?
Ms. Seaman, Mr. Mitchell, we have one speaker, and Paxton has signed up in opposition.
Thank you. Mr. Paxton?
I'm Ed Paxton, and this item 7C on tonight's agenda is based on a consultant's report. And I tell you now, I got about as much respect for a consultant's report as I got for an egg-sucking dog. All these consultant firms do is gather information from whoever is writing their paycheck and put it in order in a fancy binder. And it looks as if it's a thing of authority, and invariably they recommend exactly what the check writer wants them to conclude. The net results is it's an absolute waste of the citizens' money. It's a sales tool for the check writer and a disaster for the taxpayer from the get-go. I've seen it way too many times. I used to work in that environment. For your information, I got property on Paris Mountain, and it's paid for, and it was paid for with tax-paid money. And I got plans for that property. And if what the county does in terms of this fire mitigation thing west of State Park Road out of Travelers Rest impinges on the value of my property, we're going to be in the court real quick. I'm tired of this pushing of people's rights as it relates to their property. Accordingly, I request tax property number 49801010112 be excluded from the perimeter area as set out in the package you have received in tonight's agenda as item 7C. And I specifically request code limitations on the height of structures be made non-applicable. And for you members of council, if you've not carefully read this consultant's report, I recommend you get yourself a microscope and take a weekend and read it, because there's stuff in there that's not good for all of the people of Greenville County. Thank you for your time.
Are there any other speakers? Hearing no other speakers, we'll call this public hearing to a close.
Thank you, Mr.
Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mitchell. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Would any member of council wish to pull anything off of the consent agenda?
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr.
I would ask that item 8A be removed from the consent agenda and we take it up during requesting motions, and the requester give an indication or explanation as to why they believe that this is a good expenditure of taxpayer dollars. I do have a question while I have the floor regarding items B and C. Mr. Russo, I think these are your items?
Yes, sir, they are.
Thank you. These items, Mr. Russo's, I would move approval of the consent agenda for items B and C, and then we just take up item A during requesting motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Fant. So we'll remove item A on the consent agenda, and actually, if you don't mind, Dr. Fant, we'll take that up during committee reports since it came out of committee. we can discuss it at that time. But on the floor right now is consent agenda items B and C. There's a motion to approve. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, and the consent agenda items B and C will stand approved. The next item on our agenda is resolutions. Mr. Mitchell, I'll call on you for the first couple.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First item for resolution is Greater Greenville Sanitation District Annexation 103 Pebble Creek Drive and 49 Cambridge Drive. I move to adopt the resolution to enlarge the boundaries of the Greater Greenville Sanitation District to include 103 Pebble Creek Drive and 49 Cambridge Drive.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it. Thank you. Mr. Mitchell, go ahead with the next one, please.
My next resolution is the Greater Greenville Sanitation District Annexation, Idlewild, Michigan Place, Carolina Hills, and a portion of Blue Sky Park subdivisions. I move to adopt the resolution to enlarge the boundaries of the Greater Greenville Sanitation District to include Idlewild, Michigan Place, and Carolina Hills subdivisions and a portion of the Blue Sky Park subdivision.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the resolution passes. Harris Mountain Wildfire Mitigation Plan, Mr. Mitchell.
Harris Mountain Wildlife Mitigation Plan, I move for adoption of a resolution to amend the Greenville County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan to incorporate the Harris Mountain Wildfire Mitigation Plan as an annex to the plan.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. You've heard the resolution. Any questions?
Madam Chair, I've got some questions.
Sure, Mr. Jubilakis, go ahead.
Thank you. Regarding this proposal, I've got three questions, and I guess it maybe it's
Staff, maybe.
staff
Go
or
ahead.
whoever
Sure.
they can answer. How will the adoption of this plan and associated action items be funded by the county?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, actually, the items have already been funded through existing funds and grant funds.
Were they passed was it passed in the budget, Mr. County Administrator? Was it in the budget?
It's part of the emergency operations department.
So you're saying this does not need any appropriations on our budget or any of that? You're saying it's already approved?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Jubilakis?
I did have a question,
Hold on a
Mr.
second.
Chair.
Any other?
No,
Mr.
no,
Jubilakis?
thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, you're
So,
welcome.
thank you.
Mr. Shaw, thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. For the county administrator, just to be clear, I think the citizens of Harris Mountain are concerned, unselfishly, I believe, that they would not like their tax money spent on this mitigation plan. My understanding from this stump was that it was fully funded by a grant. So would you confirm that it's fully funded by a grant? That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Any other questions from council? All right, the motion on the floor is for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, and the ayes have it, and it passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Mr. Kervin, we'll turn things over to you now for the abandoned site, building site certification.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item 9D, abandoned building site certification, 1521 Poinsett Highway. I move for adoption a resolution to provide a certification pursuant to South Carolina Abandoned Buildings Revitalization Act for the property located at 1521 Poinsett Highway, Greenville, South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Kervin. Any questions? The motion's on the floor. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and it passes unanimously. Item E, Mr. Kervin, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item 9E, project transformation inducement agreement. I move for adoption a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of an inducement agreement by and between Greenville County, South Carolina, and Project Transformation, whereby under certain conditions, Greenville County will execute a fee in lieu of tax and special source credit agreement with respect to the project in the county, and the project would be subject to payment of certain fees in lieu of taxes, and will be providing certain credits against fee payments in reimbursement of investment in related qualified infrastructure and providing for related matters.
Heard the motion, any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
One no, thank you, Mr. Shaw. All right, the ayes have it, and the project is approved. Now we come to items at third reading, and start with zoning ordinances. Dr. Fant.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. CZ 2023-052, property located at 1529 Rocky Mountain Road, Greenville, requesting rezoning from I-1 to FRD with conditions. I move adoption of the ordinance at third reading.
You've heard the motion, any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it, and passes unanimously.
CZ 2023-054, property located at 1212 Ridley Street, 214 Marsh Street, and Bailey Street, Greenville, requesting rezoning from R7.5 to FRD with a condition. I move adoption of the ordinance at third reading.
All right, you've heard the motion, any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it.
CZ 2023-055, property located at 153 Brown Road, South Carolina Highway 153 and Interstate 185, Piedmont, requesting rezoning from RS to S1. I move adoption of the ordinance at third reading.
You've heard the motion, any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it.
CZ 2023-056, property located at 3900 DS Highway 14 and Vaughn Road, Greenville, requesting rezoning from PD to PD. Major change with a condition. I move adoption of the ordinance at third reading.
You've heard the motion, any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it. Now we'll move to ordinances at second reading, and Dr. Fant will stay with you.
Thank you again, Madam Chairman. CZ 2023-052, property located at 916 and 914 Levon Road and 3700 Woodruff Road, Simpsonville, requesting rezoning from RS to FRD. The Planning Commission and the committee recommend approval with a condition. On behalf of the committee, I move approval of the ordinance at second reading, but I do have the condition.
Go ahead with your conditions, please.
Move to amend the request to include the condition that the development must submit a final development plan for review and approval prior to the issuance of any land development or building permits.
Thank you. Any questions on the amendment?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I have
Mr.
one
Mitchell.
question. Is this 5-2 or 4-2?
4-2.
4-2. Okay, I thought you said 5-2.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, you've heard the amendment. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, Dr. Phantom.
On behalf of the committee, I move approval of the ordinance at second reading as amended.
Great. The motion is on the floor. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it, and it's approved unanimously. Next one, Mr. Phantom.
Next item, CZ 2023-060, property located at 5 Lockman Drive, Greenville, requesting rezoning from R15 to R6. The Planning Commission recommended denial and the committee recommended approval. On behalf of the committee, I move approval of the ordinance at second reading.
All right, you've heard the motion. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Dr. Phantom.
CZ 2023-062, property located at 904 and 910 Pinckney Street and Pete Hollis Road, Greenville, requesting rezoning from I-1 to FRD. The Planning Commission and committee recommended approval with a condition. I have an amendment.
And thank you.
Move to amend the request to include the condition that the development must submit a final development plan for review and approval prior to issuance of any land development or building permits. I move approval of for the amendment.
Thank you. You've heard the amendment. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it.
Move approval of the ordinance as amended.
Thank you. Motion on the floor to approve the ordinance as amended. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it. Dr. Phantom.
63 was withdrawn, and we're now at CZ 2023-064. Property located at 2808 Fork Shoals Road and Cali Scott Road, Piedmont, requesting rezoning from RS to R12. The Planning Commission and the committee recommended approval. On behalf of the committee, I move approval of the ordinance at second reading.
Thank you. The motion's on the floor. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and it's approved unanimously. All right, Dr. Fant, Mike will stay with you for item E.
Item B, Madam Chairman, it was held on the floor at the last meeting. Staff is preparing 3 amendments for the P&D committee to review, and we plan to pick one or a combination of the 3. Those have not been presented yet, so I would ask that this item just be held on the floor to the next meeting until we have an opportunity to review the amendments and bring those forward.
Right, there's a motion on the floor to hold. Any comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know some of my colleagues and myself are looking forward to getting this item passed tonight. We feel it's pretty critical to some in the unzoned areas. It has a lot of pressure on development in those areas. This is a pretty weak ordinance. Perhaps we can get it improved if we approve the motion to hold it. I know that staff is working on some items to maybe align this better with the UDO that will be coming up later on. So I would support the motion to hold, although I do have concerns that it's not being sent back to the P&D yet. We're talking about P&D discussing it. I think that's a point of order. I think the amendments need to be come back to the floor of the council. But I support a motion to hold it on the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kerwin. I agree. If it passes, we will keep it on the floor and allow the committee to work through amendments. And I think also, just on that note, I would encourage my colleagues, if you have questions or concerns, certainly direct them to staff or to P&D and make sure that those get taken up there as well. And those would be in our packet. I also want to make a note that we haven't had a public hearing on this item yet. And certainly, it would make more sense to hold the public hearing once we have the amendments so that the community can weigh in on what the final item will look like.
You might have misunderstood. It would probably be better to have another workshop where all council members will be there rather than just hash out amendments at P&D. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I mean, we certainly could have another workshop. I think more what I was thinking is that if.
We've got 5 members that are going to, do
Sure.
all the work and just go it out.
Yeah, no, sure, Mr. Kerwin, as you know, I appreciate your concerns, but I think we do have a pretty decent committee structure working. I think my thought was if the committee heard the amendments, we would get them in the packet in time for us to have some conversation about it and think about it when it was on the floor. But certainly, I don't think staff would be opposed to trying to hold another workshop if we can do it in due order. I
just want to be done right. We have to go by Masons or something like that. We might review that. But it's come out of committee. It's on the floor, and the effect of what Dr. Fan said was it could actually going back to committee to work up on amendments.
No, sir. He wants to hold it on the floor, and I think the committee has every right to talk about any amendments they'd like to bring forward, as does anybody else. I mean, that.
Well, I would check.
Madam Chairman, and I would like to weigh in. I know a lot of people are anxious about this particular item on both sides. And I want everybody to know that this is not the final end game. This is just a placeholder, regardless of what the end decision is. It is just a placeholder. We're going to continue to work with REWA and Metro to get a better game plan together with regards to sewer access in the unzoned areas. Plus, there's a desire to, basically the way to control what you don't like next to you is have zoning. When you don't have zoning, that's when you can't control it. So that's what we're going to be working with. This is just a little stopgap till we can get to the bigger picture. But this is going to be a continuous work in progress. But we wanted to hold it on the floor. We will not take any action, Mr. Chairman, in P&D. We will just bring those amendments back. And any ideas you have, certainly share them with the committee or share them with staff. There's total transparency. I just want to get to something that everybody can live with and not have a big fight out here in public.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Harrison and then Mr. Giovanni. Oh, okay, go ahead, Mr. Giovanni. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to ask that maybe it go to Cal. I'd like all our debate to be done in front of the people. If it goes anywhere, maybe we can keep it at Cal and let our debate be up here like we are having right now, so the people can hear every word that we say and they don't miss anything we hear or what we say.
Appreciate that, Mr. Giovanni. The motion currently is to actually hold it on the floor, so debate would still be here on the floor. But I mean, I just want to be clear on
what
the
debate's here.
The debate would be here you're on the floor, yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to, there's been a lot of, we're looking at amendments, I just want to clear the air a little bit. What happened was we had a workshop. Staff is coming up with the amendments directly from the discussion at our workshop where all of us were there. So that's what's happening. They're presenting for the first time. No one's seen the amendments yet. They're working on them based on the discussion from the workshop. They're going to present those amendments to P&D for discussion at P&D, and then it'll be all brought back here for all of us to discuss with you. I just want to make sure everybody understands there's been a lot of different words thrown around, so that's kind of what the process
Sure,
is.
thank you, Mr. Harrison. What, no, sir, Mr. Kirby, it's staying here on the floor. The staff amendments will first get discussed in committee, and then they will come to full council just like all other amendments do. Any of us can come to the P&D committee if they'd like to hear the discussion as it's happening in real time. We can certainly also read the minutes from that meeting, but other than that, those will come to us and we will all get a chance to debate them on the floor at our next meeting or when they are ready from staff.
Call the question.
The question's been called. The motion is to hold item B on the floor.
What's the time limit to the next meeting?
Next meeting.
Hold it on the floor.
Point of information.
Sure, Mr. Shaw.
Which way would we vote if we would be supporting General Kervin's idea on this vote?
Mr. Kervin, how will you be voting on this vote? I can't speak for how he's gonna vote, but.
Question, I think he doesn't understand.
Yeah, just asking for a question. Madam Chair, I was just asking for a clarification. If I were to vote no, I think I'm supporting General Kervin's concern in this vote here.
Well, motion to hold on the floor. I'll support that.
He just said he supported, the motion is to hold on the floor and he supports holding it on the floor. Okay. All right, the motion is to hold it on the floor until the next meeting. Okay? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Thank you all very much for the discussion on that. Mr. Kervin, item C is yours.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. 11C, Anderson Greenville Multi-County Industrial Business Park 2023 Park Agreement. I move for approval at second reading an ordinance to authorize and approve an agreement for the development of a joint industrial and business park 2023 park / workforce housing by and between Greenville County and Anderson County. Such industrial and business park to be geographically located in Greenville County and Anderson County.
Thank you, Mr. Kervin. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it and it's approved unanimously. Item D, Mr. Kervin.
Madam Chairman, Cherokee Landing Special Source Revenue Credit Agreement. I move for approval at second reading an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a special source credit agreement by and between Greenville County, South Carolina, and Cherokee Landing, LP, with respect to certain investment in qualifying infrastructure that is related to the construction of a multifamily commercial housing development in the county, which will include certain affordable and workforce housing. Such project will be subject to payment in lieu of taxes by virtue of its location in a joint county industrial and business park, and to the application of certain special source credits and other matters related thereto.
Mr. Kervin.
Roll call, please.
Okay, look, I'm gonna open it up for discussion first, but yes, we will definitely have a roll call on this. Mr. Blunt.
Madam Chair, thank you. I just wanted to make a point to stress on this particular item that the policy that we have, the affordable housing policy, is not a bad policy. In my opinion, it's just a bad policy for Cherokee Landing specifically. When you have a apartment complex that has 100% already affordable rooms provided, and then you're offering an incentive to the developer for 20 years at 50%, the developer's supposed to give you something in return. And so since there's nothing in return that the developer can give because all the doors are already affordable, I would propose that my colleagues support me in denying this request.
Yes.
Any other comments, questions? Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I've had several conversations with Mr. Blunt about this. I think we agree to disagree on some of the points. I'll agree with him on some of the points. I think this has become, just through the messaging of this project, I appreciate what he just said, but this has become an attack on the affordable housing policy altogether. But I appreciate what he said.
Ladies and gentlemen, please.
Let me just say this. Yeah. So again, that just kind of solidifies the things that I've been taught and all that, and that's fine. So, but here's the reality of the situation. We do this for industrial projects every month, and my point is that we've done 5 tonight, or we have 5 tonight. And what people don't understand is that the other tax credits Mr. Blunt's referring to are income tax credits from the state and federal government that have a lot of other stipulations with them. They can only be used to construct the project. They have to have $3,500 spent per unit per year on each individual unit. So there's a lot of extenuating circumstances with those. In addition, the Department of Commerce, there's about 12 different, I think I've written down, 12 different income tax credits that industrial users can also get as well, in addition to the property tax abatements that we give them as well. So my point is not necessarily, and again, it's not specifically about Cherokee Landing. This has become a microcosm of this whole issue, and all 12 of us have said that affordable housing is one of our top priorities. So my only point, if it's not a top priority, let's not worry about it. Let's not make it a priority if we're not going to worry about it. If it's a priority, let's actually work to have a solution to a housing problem that we all have. Everybody knows, I agree with the speaker earlier, we need home ownership, and we do things to increase home ownership. So that's a move. There's 4% taxes versus 6% taxes. Additionally, GCRA, that is our housing arm of county government, they do federal funds, but in addition, they have some money out of our budget. They have home ownership programs. But again, so you can't talk out of both sides of our mouths up here. Either it's a priority and let's work to solve the issue, or let's not make it a priority. That's my point in this. And so, again, greatly respect and appreciate Mr. Blunt's comments, what he just said, but again, to me, actions speak louder than words. This policy was adopted a year ago, last October. Not one person other than Mr. Kirby last week has suggested any edits, any solutions, any comments to the policy. So I haven't even looked at it. It's just kind of, let's work to solve the problem. That's my only thing with this. So I support the housing policy, and this fits the housing policy to a T. And again, what Mr. Blunt's saying, I agree with. It is already 100% affordable, with the addition of some 40% AMI that this policy will require. But also, and I think Mr. Blunt also said, and I agree with him here, that this project, I think and again, I don't know the developers. They could be the best developers, they could be the worst developers. I don't know. That's not the point of this conversation. But what Mr. Blunt said is that. So I lost my train of thought. But hang on, let me throw my notes here. So again, the goalpost move, because we've heard it needs to be close to transit, it needs to be this, that can't be apartments. The apartment's already zoned for apartments. And also, this is where I was going to go with this. Mr. Blunt said that, and a lot of other people said, and I agree with, that they will still do the project if we don't approve the tax credits. I agree with that too. I agree. So I agree with that. But here's the reality situation. The math says they won't be able to do the same project that they're doing now. They're going to have to cut costs. And so if you cut costs, the total project cost decreases, and you're left with less property taxes anyways. So, and again, the comment about we're giving tax credits or giving taxpayers' monies away, it's just, I know you said it's a spin. It's not a spin. It's factually incorrect. The current property taxes on this property are $11,000. With the tax credit, they're estimated to be about $250,000. So, I don't see what the county's not writing them a check for $250,000. That's not how this works. So again, I've told Mr. Blunt, I'm happy to discuss in detail, and I've done it with them many times. I've discussed every aspect of not just this project, but the affordable housing policy in detail with anyone. Ms. Hood, anybody. I'm happy to sit down and discuss it absolutely open book, would love to do that, because this is a complex, it's a very complex problem that we have. So anyways, those are my comments, Madam Chair. I appreciate the time, but I think there's been a lot of misinformation thrown out there that I think needs to be corrected, so.
Who is affordable
Thank
housing
you.
for?
Ladies and
What is
gentlemen,
affordable
please.
housing?
Ladies and gentlemen, please. We're having a debate up here on the dais. Mr. Kirby.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since I'm the one that made the motion a few minutes ago on behalf of the Finance Committee, and I voted for it in Finance Committee, but I need to explain, and I'm for affordable housing because I think it's an area that's not served by the market. I believe in market-based projects, and if you're going to have an affordable component to it that you support, it's got to be a small scale, it's got to be targeted, it's got to meet a lot of criteria. As I've studied this particular project, it falls, to my mind, I know there's disagreement on the dice about this, outside the parameters that were intended by the policy, and in a number of ways. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on that right now. At the last Finance Committee meeting, we had a robust discussion about affordable housing, about the policy that we have, the objectives of the policy, how do we balance it out in ways and means to achieve the reasonable and the measured objectives that we're going to try to achieve here to benefit legitimate, hard-working people that just need a place to live and work their way up and try to achieve the American dream. And there's a home ownership, really. And, the income is certified, validated, and to keep up with it, it's just not, you don't walk in and say, I don't make that much money, can I get this apartment? Yeah, you can get it, and nobody ever checks them again. The ones that qualify for this, you keep up with it just like paying taxes or something like that. But because this one, in a number of ways, in my mind, falls outside the parameter of what our policy is and should be, I'm changing my vote to a no on this. And I voted for workforce housing projects in the past, and I probably will in the future, but it's going to be a lot more careful scrutiny. And we don't need to have a policy where every developer that wants to build a new apartment project in Greenville County comes in and gets in line and gets their cut off for taxes. That's a criteria, and there would be a benefit that we get in exchange for what we pay for everybody's money that goes into this. So I just wanted to explain that. I appreciate the indulgence. I know some of my colleagues disagree with me on that. Some of them may agree. But I've got my vote, and that's the way I'm going to make it tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. Mr. Giovanni.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Few remarks I have. First of all, we talked about GADC, and I want the citizens to know that when we give FILOs, which is a tax break, to an industrial building, they're bringing jobs.
That's right.
Generally. So that's how that works. When we voted for the affordable housing, this ordinance way back when, we were told that it would be a case-by-case deal. That we could look at it each time and decide whether we wanted to vote it for or not. Well, as the people see, citizens see, every time affordable housing comes up, it gets voted in favor of. I'm not for that. The reason I voted way back when for that was because it was a case-by-case situation. But now, I do want to say, I would like to redo the whole thing and say affordable housing can be done by nonprofits, by businesses, by churches, but not by government and citizens. One more comment I want to say. This council, in its budget, tell me if I'm wrong, Mr. County Administrator, it's either $5 or $10 million a year that we have in our budget for affordable housing. Is that incorrect or correct?
That's incorrect.
Okay. Could you please tell me the amount we do have in the budget for affordable housing?
The first year is $2 million, the second year is $3 million.
Okay, so we got a total of $5 million. So we already do support affordable housing out of the council, just for the record. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. DeBlanc. Mr. Harrison?
I just would like to further ask Mr. Blackis, what you said, that wasn't the solution. Private businesses, nonprofits can do it, but government, I'm not suggesting government, we're saying, how about let me.
They help with that.
How?
Give them money. But there's businesses out there that hire people and give you $200 to $400 a month to help you for your housing. That's businesses, that's private business. We don't need citizens doing that. We don't need the government doing that.
The goal of this policy was to get government out of affordable housing, is to encourage private development in affordable housing, that's the whole point. So I agree with you on that, that's the whole point. So, thank you.
Thank you both. All right, I think we've debated this to the point where I think people are ready to vote. Is that the case? All right, we're gonna have a roll call vote. Are we electronically set to go roll call, or are we gonna do old school? When it comes up on your screen, vote. And members of the audience, just so you know, we have to have 7 votes for this to pass tonight.
No, not supporting.
Correct, that is correct. All right, 3 in favor, 8 opposed, so the item fails. Thank you all very much. Mr. Kirby, we'll go to you, item E.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, this is item 11E, Anderson, Greenville, Muncie County Industrial Business Park Agreement Amendment, Cherokee Landing LP. I move for approval at second reading and ordinance to authorize and approve an agreement for the development of a joint industrial and business park, 2023 park. Is that one I've already done?
No, sir, this is the second half of Sheriff Landing.
Slash workforce housing by and between Greenville County and Anderson County, such industrial and business park to be geographically located in Greenville County and Anderson County.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. Is there any questions on this one? This one, go ahead. Yeah.
I guess on, just verification, if it was voted no on the one previous, would you take a vote on this and still?
You do have the matter before you. My recommendation would be based on the earlier vote, to go ahead and take this up and dispose of it. You can't do one without the other.
Right, okay.
Thanks for the clarification. All right, any questions? All right, all those.
Roll call.
Sure. Roll call vote, please.
We're going to do it electronically.
Yes, sir. All right, and item E fails. All right, the next item on our agenda is F, Project Slur. Mr. Kirby.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for adoption, for approval at second reading an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax agreement by and between Greenville County, South Carolina, and a company known to the county at this time as Project Slur. Sorry about that name, I didn't make that up. With respect to certain economic development property in the county, whereby such property will be subject to certain payments in lieu of taxes, including the provision of certain special source credits and other matters thereto. And I believe I can disclose that this is one of the largest investments that will have been made in Greenville County in quite some time, well over $200 million by a private company bringing in the county to do business here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kirby. Any questions? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? You guys have it, and it passes unanimously. Item G, please, Mr. Kirby.
Yes, ma'am. Project Everest, I move for approval at second reading an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax agreement by and between Greenville County, South Carolina, and a company or companies known to the county at this time as Project Everest with respect to certain economic development property in the county, whereby such property will be subject to certain payments in lieu of taxes, including the provision of certain special source credits and other matters related thereto. Madam Chair, I do have an amendment on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. Go ahead with your amendment.
The amendment is, I move to amend the ordinance to reflect the
you've heard the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the ordinance as amended.
Motion on the floor to approve the ordinance as amended. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. All right, thank you, Mr. Kerwin. Item H.
H would be Anderson Greenville Industrial Business Park 2010 Park Agreement Amendment Project Little Brother. Move for approval at second reading an ordinance to amend an agreement for the development of a joint county industrial and business park 2010 Park of Anderson and Greenville counties so as to enlarge the park.
Thank you, Mr. Kerwin. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it. All right, now we're up to ordinances at first reading. Dr. Fan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I present for first reading zoning dockets CZ 2023-067 through CZ 2023-070.
Thank you, Dr. Fant. Those will go to the Planning and Development Committee. Item B, Dr. Fant.
I present for first reading an ordinance to amend the Greenville County zoning ordinance to add Article 8, Section 12, Special Purpose Review District Regulations in order to establish the Pelham Road Commercial Corridor Overlay District as shown on the map labeled Exhibit A.
Very much, and that will also go back to the Planning and Development Committee. Item C, Mr. Barnes.
Thank you, Madam. I present the first reading of an ordinance to prohibit the peaceful exercise of the conduct protected by the First Amendment in South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. We will refer that back to the Public Safety Committee. Item D, Mr. Barnes.
Thank you, Madam. I present the first reading of an ordinance to establish regulations for waste tire haulers in Greenville County.
Great, that will stay on the floor. And item E, Mr. Kerwin.
Transfer of property to SCDOT 202 Shannon Drive. I present for first reading an ordinance to authorize the sale of a portion of county-owned property located at 202 Shannon Drive to the South Carolina Department of Transportation for the replacement of the Shannon Drive Bridge over Brushy Creek, and to authorize the chairman of county council and the county administrator to execute any necessary deeds and agreements related thereto.
Thank you, Mr. Kerwin. That'll stay on the council floor. Item F, please.
Yes, ma'am. Project transformation. I present for first reading an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax agreement signed between Greenville County, South Carolina, and a company known to the county at this time as Project Transformation with respect to certain economic development property in the county, whereby such property will be subject to certain payments in lieu of taxes, including the provisions of certain special source credits and other matters related thereto.
Thank you, Mr. Kerwin. This will also stay on the floor. And finally, item G, please.
Project Front Porch. I present for first reading an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of an amended and restated fee in lieu of tax agreement by and between Greenville County, South Carolina, and a company known to the county at this time as Project Front Porch with respect to certain economic development property in the county, whereby such property will be subject to certain payments in lieu of taxes, including the provision of certain special source credits and other matters related thereto.
Thank you, Mr. Kerwin. That will stay on the floor as well. Item 13 is committee reports, and we need to take up consent agenda item A. The floor is now open for discussion on that item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was, I don't know the exact amount until I pull it back up. It's about $2,300 for a state of South Carolina historical approved metal sign in the Saluted Travelers Rest for the Spring Park Inn. First of all, my apologies to my two colleagues here. I kind of jumped the gun in asking for this myself. I should have asked them for participation in it, and because I got a little excited about the project. So one of the interesting points about it was the original proposal had information on the Spring Park Inn, which has been fully restored, and thousands of people see it on the Swamp Rabbit Trail. But there was an insistence to add in there the recognition that there were probably enslaved persons there, so it gives recognition and honor to the enslaved persons that were probably there during the time. So I ask everybody to approve that.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Other questions?
Roll call.
All right, we'll take a roll call on this item. Ms. McCaskill, please. right, 10 in favor, 1 opposed, and the item passes. There being no other committee reports for us to consider, we'll go to the administrator's report. Thank you, Mr. Cornell. All right, item 15, requests and motions by council members. We're going to start with Mr. Harrison this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Per my email with details to all of you, I'd like to make a motion to, and also since my motion to reconsider is past the next meeting time, move to suspend council rule.
Aye. Those opposed? All right. Go ahead, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As noticed on the county council agenda, I move to reconsider the action taken at the September 5th, 2023 regular council meeting regarding zoning docket CZ 2023-46. Again, this was details pertaining to an email sent to all of you. It's been an ongoing case. And I think also some community member support was also emailed out to all the council earlier today. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. The motion before us is for...
Madam Chair.
Sure, Mr. Childs, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I would just ask that, and I received all what Councilor Harrison has said, but I would appreciate him if he could just summarize to all of us, why he is in favor of this, just and kind of coach us up a little bit here. We've read through what you've given us, but I'd like to hear what you have to share with us.
Happy to.
Please.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to, Madam Chair. And just for the record, not to call them out, but the property owner and his wife are in attendance tonight. If there are any further questions, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any questions. So this has been ongoing for many, many months. It was brought to our attention that there were some mistakes made on this property over the past 15 years. This property owner has run his business out of this property. Recently it was discovered that there were some codes and setback violations, and we worked tirelessly to try to figure out the best path forward. Some BZA members reached out to try to go through BZA. There was some additional information taken or that happened at that time, so the request was removed from BZA, and after discussing with staff and legal and the entire county codes department, rezoning to C3 was the best course of action. Here's the not the rub, but so what this does, this allows this property owner, business owner to keep his buildings where they are. If this is not approved, the buildings effectively have to be moved, which in effect will make them have to be torn down. There are 70 tenants in these buildings. Many of them reached out and have no place to go if this were to happen. But as I made the property owner aware also, this is not a get out of jail free card. There's been some mistakes made by the county in years past, and the property acknowledges there's been mistakes made over the years. But what this does is this gives him an opportunity to fix the issues with fire marshal and codes where his building's at. So again, he's not going to be able to open until that happens, but this allows him a fighting chance to basically save his business. Without this vote, again, his business will be torn down and his livelihood will be gone. So this is information that was brought after the original denial. It was basically that kind of an ultimatum. So that's kind of there's no gray area anymore. It's that black or white. So that is the reason for the reconsideration, and I hope that my colleagues will support this request, because again, this is a small business owner in the community. There's been not one bad thing, not one negative regarding this rezoning request in the community. So again, I just hope my colleagues would support this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Mr. Childs, for that suggestion. Rick, go ahead.
Is it my understanding if this is approved, it only affects 3 of the 11 buildings?
Correct. I can't remember the exact numbers. It would affect all the buildings that are within the setback. And the reality is these are, as I informed some BZA members that when they called and asked me about this, because I don't think they fully realize, these are enclosed buildings. So I'm sure the property owner wishes he could just pick them up and move them 3 feet further out of the setback. But the reality is he can't. He's tried to get neighboring property from the neighbors. They were willing to do it. They just physically couldn't because of their use. So literally the setback issues. So all the buildings that are within the setback, probably 3 or 4 maybe, I can't remember the exact number. So I've got several buildings out there, but whatever's in the setback is what this would alleviate. Again, there are still many steps after this to get this back up to where it needs to be, but this, like I said, gives them a fighting chance.
All right, so the motion before us is for reconsideration before we can actually consider the item. Mr. Blount, sorry.
That's actually, I was gonna ask that, Madam Chair, and I'll plead ignorance in front of all these people, but I've never voted on the motion to reconsider it, so does that entail something we'll take up tonight after we approve that?
Yes.
Or, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, yes, no, the item before us, so we have, our rules are suspended, so we can reconsider, so the motion on the floor now is to reconsider. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, we have one no, but the ayes have it, so the motion right now is on the floor and it stands at second reading. Mr. Harrison, anything else you want to add?
I'm happy to answer any questions, I know the property owners here as well, but, again, I'm happy to answer any additional questions anyone may have.
Sure. Mr. Dublakis?
So, you said there's many steps, so I think you said, I don't want to take words from you, but I think you said they have some steps they have to take. First of all, a couple of questions. A, how did we find out they were, not in compliance? B, can you explain the steps that we have to take, they have to take to be in compliance? And I think I heard you say they gotta be closed down until they get in compliance. Is that, can you confirm or?
That's correct. They've already put notices to vacate to all their tenants. So their tenants are trying to figure out where to go and making temporary arrangements until they hopefully get this resolved. Your first question, how it was discovered. So my understanding was, I believe, someone got locked in one of their spaces and the fire department was called, and that's when they discovered a lot of these issues. And as far as the additional steps, I'll give you an example. There's many of, for instance, some wiring, like electrical violations that, again, he's not gonna fix those if his building's gonna have to get torn down. So that's kind of the gist. There's several more like that. That's a good example of one of the further issues on
So
it.
does he have those lists?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think there's been, this is not something that's come out of thin air. This is, we've spent a lot of time between myself, T, Codes Department, the property owner, the fire marshal. They've had many, many meetings to go over all that. And they've actually put a plan in place to fix all these issues they've presented to staff. This is the first step to try to get it fixed.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing what you're sharing. While all those people are important, we're the ones that have to be voting for it. And, we need to understand it like you're doing. I appreciate you sharing what you're doing.
Happy to.
So, do we have that list as a council?
I'm sure Codes can provide it, the fire marshal. I mean, it's getting it all into codes compliance is what it is. So it's your standard codes. I mean, whatever the code says it has to do is what it has to do. I don't have that list in front of me, but.
But I'm sure we could get that. Yeah, thanks, Mr. Dublakis. Any other questions? Mr. Bradley?
So Chris, is my understanding if they hadn't got locked into the building, he would never comply.
And I don't think he would have known he wasn't in compliance either.
Well, as you know, all of our ordinances are compliant zoning, so.
That's good.
Any other questions, thoughts?
Just one question.
Hold on.
The,
Mr. Herman and Mr. Shaw, hold that thought. Mr. Herman.
Oh, for this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, switch this.
Okay, go ahead.
Hold this.
Appreciate that lengthy discussion and kind of due to this particular item here, but I'm a little bit conflicted in that, I'm happy to do anything to help anybody that I can at any time, but I want to make sure that everybody has the same opportunity to get the same kind of help.
Sure.
Let me say, I'm not sure how you balance that out, but.
Let me add one thing, that C3 was approved by staff, so the zoning fits. It's not like we're trying to force some random zoning in a certain area. It was a workable solution. And if my opinion is, again, I'm not about to vote for someone in my community to have to tear down the building and to 70 tenants to be displaced. I'm just not going to do that. So if there's a way we can work it that's reasonable and appropriate, I'm going to do that. So, and that's where we're at after many, many conversations. So, that's.
Sure, let me add too, this is just at second reading, so, between the second and third reading, we'll have a chance to get that full list. And I would certainly think that would be important by the time this gets to third reading.
Well, could we ask that we put amendments on third reading or whatever it may be? So if we need to.
Sure, would you like to make a motion for amendments at third reading?
Yeah, since it's going to third reading, and yes, I'd like to make a motion that we can put amendments in third reading.
Okay, Sure, and just a reminder, per our council rules, if there are to be amendments at third, we need them in writing in the packet so that we all have ample time to read them. Hold that thought for 1 second, Mr. Jubilakis. Mr. Shaw, would you want to add something, or would you like us to go ahead and vote on amendments at third and then get back to you?
My questions were answered, thank you.
Awesome, okay. All right, so the motion on the floor is for amendments at third reading. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, we will have amendments at third. Mr. Harrison, since the item technically was amended, would you make a motion to approve the item at second reading as amended?
Sure, so moved.
All right, any other further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Okay, we have 2 noes, I think, but the ayes carry the day, so that will move to third reading. All right, we have one other item under requests and motions. Mr. Jubilakis, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have an ordinance proposal in tonight's packet that I'm requesting be referred to committee for consideration. This ordinance sets up a prohibition on mask mandate requirements in the absence of a declared national or state emergency. This is an important issue to protect the constitutional freedom of expression and freedom of choice in healthcare from these types of personal restrictions. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jubilakis. We'll send that to committee of the whole. All right, there are no other items for requests and motions, just one more item on our agenda this evening. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you all very much.
I don't think I'll be allowed to go up there.
How are you? Good to see you. This is yours? So, right here.
Oh, yeah, careful. Oh,
Here you go.